All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to skip the polished corporate script from Lemonade's latest earnings call. Instead, we're diving straight into the tough questions from investors, because that's where you uncover the real, and honestly, pretty radical strategy they're using to try and upend the entire insurance world.
So let's get into it. You know, every earnings call starts with these prepared remarks, right? But the real gold, the real insight is always in the Q&A. That's when the script gets tossed aside and executives have to answer the hard questions. It forces them to really show their cards, to reveal their core philosophy. And believe me, Lemonade's Q&A was packed with some fascinating stuff.
So the first big theme that just kept coming up over and over was artificial intelligence. Now, for Lemonade, this isn't just some buzzword they throw around. It is the absolute foundation, the engine of their entire business.
And that's not just hype. Their CEO, Daniel Schreiber, made it super clear that AI is everywhere. I mean, it's guiding their marketing, it's setting prices, and it's even handling the vast majority of claims without a single human touching them. Its impact is literally woven right into the company's financial DNA.
Okay, so how can we actually measure this supposed AI advantage? Well, one of the best ways is a metric called the loss adjustment expense, or just LAE. You can think of it as the cost of doing business for an insurance company. You know, the salaries for claims adjusters, investigation costs, basically all the overhead that goes into processing every single claim. A lower number here means you're just way more efficient.
And here's where you see the proof. If you look at the big established insurance carriers, their LAE is typically floating around 9%. Lemonade, even though they're way smaller, is already running at just 7%. Now, that 2-point difference might not sound like a lot, but in the world of insurance, that is a massive, massive structural advantage, and it's all thanks to their tech.
And just look at this chart. It's kind of wild. Over the last 3 years, the number of claims Lemonade is handling has just exploded, up by 150%. That's 2.5 times the work. But get this, the number of human claims adjusters they employ has actually gone down by 5%. They're doing so much more with fewer people. That, right there, is the power of AI in action.
Okay, so let's move on to the second key idea, and you'll see how this all connects. Let's talk about growth. How is Lemonade using this tech advantage to bring in new customers in a totally different way than the old-school companies?
So, how does all this techie efficiency stuff actually translate into growth? Well, investors were really pushing on their car insurance product, and the answer really comes down to this one number, 50%. Over half of all new customers for Lemonade Car are people who are already customers. They already have renters or pet insurance with them. And this is just so crucial. It means these customers are basically acquired for free. The company calls them CAC-less, CAC being customer acquisition cost. But it gets even better. The CEO explained in the Q&A that these aren't just any customers. They tend to be lower risk, they stick around for longer, and hey, they were already profitable from their first policy. He even talked about it like a negative CAC. It's just a profoundly efficient way to grow.
And this isn't just happening in the US. Over in Europe, where the rules are a bit more flexible, they're seeing even crazier results. Their AI can tweak prices almost in real time based on new data, and it's led to just explosive growth and really healthy financials. It's almost like a sneak peek of their model running at full throttle.
All right, this brings us to what I think is the most fascinating and honestly the most counterintuitive part of Lemonade's whole strategy. It's something that really got put under the microscope during the Q&A, their unique philosophy on what profit even means. See, traditional insurance companies are obsessed with one thing, the loss ratio percentage. All that means is, for every dollar they take in, what percentage goes back out to pay for claims? The goal is always to get that percentage as low as possible. But Lemonade says, nope, that's the wrong goal. They are totally focused on maximizing the absolute number of gross profit dollars. And you couldn't ask for a clearer statement than this one from the CEO. He basically said they are happy to accept a higher loss ratio, a worse percentage if it means bringing in more total profit dollars in the end. It's a trade they'll make 10 times out of 10. That's a pretty bold stance.
So how on earth does that actually work? Well, imagine you could lower your price for a certain group of customers by 5%. Sure, your profit margin on each person gets a little thinner, and your loss ratio might tick up a tiny bit. But what if that 5% price cut brings in 20% more customers who stick around? The sheer volume of that new business more than makes up for the thinner margin, and you're left with a much bigger pile of cash.
So let's pull all these pieces together.
You've got the AI advantage, this super efficient growth, and this really unique profit model. What does the Lemonade strategic blueprint actually look like when you put it all on the table?
Here it is in a nutshell. First, you use AI to build an operating model that is just fundamentally cheaper than your rivals. Second, you use that advantage to create such a great customer experience that your existing customers become your best engine for growth. Third, you stop obsessing over percentages and start obsessing over total profit dollars. And finally, and this is a big one, you use tech to turn costs that usually grow with the business, like hiring more people, into fixed costs that don't.
And that really brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? This whole strategy is incredibly bold, and it hinges entirely on their tech being better than everyone else's. By throwing out the industry rulebook and betting everything on AI-driven growth and efficiency, is Lemonade actually building the future of insurance, or is this focus on dollars over percentages a much riskier game than it seems? The answer to that is going to define not just Lemonade, but maybe the entire industry for years to come.